All right, so you're getting ready for the CCSP exam.
Smart move.
Yeah.
Cloud security is the place to be.
Oh, absolutely.
But I know that exam can be a beast.
It can be tough, for sure.
So we're going to dive deep into some study materials today.
Excellent.
Pull out some of those golden nuggets.
Yeah, those key takeaways, right?
Exactly, to help you crush it.
Yeah, and I think we've got some fascinating stuff to unpack.
Oh, for sure.
The whole story of the Clipper chip, how cloud providers build their own Fort Knox for data, and even a bit of color theory.
That's right.
But don't worry, no art school degree required.
Yeah, what's great about the CCSP is that it forces you to think big picture.
Yeah.
You're not just memorizing firewall rules, you're really grasping those core principles
Absolutely.
of how to keep things safe in the cloud.
Exactly. And speaking of core principles, let's start with the foundation of it all. Cryptographic keys.
Right.
I mean, these things are like the keys to the kingdom, right?
They are, think of them as the master key to your data safety.
Mm-hmm.
You mess up key management, it doesn't matter how strong your other security measures are. You're vulnerable.
Yeah.
It's a concept that trips people up on the exam.
I bet.
Because it seems simple on the surface,
Right.
but the implications are huge.
Okay, so let's break it down. What are the big things about keys that I absolutely need to know for the CCSP?
First off, randomness.
Okay.
When a system generates a key, it can't just pick, 1, 2, 3, 4. It has to be truly random.
Right.
Otherwise, attackers can start guessing based on patterns.
Yeah.
It's like the difference between a 4-digit PIN and a 20-character password with crazy symbols,
Right.
The more random, the harder to crack.
Makes sense, and I bet the length of the key matters too, right?
Absolutely. Longer keys mean exponentially more combinations for an attacker to try.
Yeah.
We're talking brute force attacks where they're just throwing every possible combination at it until something sticks.
Right.
But with long random keys, the time it'd take to crack them,
Right.
it becomes practically impossible.
So it's a numbers game, literally. But creating a strong key is just the first step.
Yeah.
Right? What about managing them once they're out in the wild?
Right. That's where things get tricky. Rotation, changing keys regularly is essential.
Okay.
Think about it like changing your passwords, but for your encryption.
Right.
Then there's key revocation, which is basically hitting the kill switch on a key if it's compromised or an employee leaves the company.
Right.
You'll want to know the different methods for each.
Okay.
Because the exam might throw scenarios at you.
So it's not just about the tech, it's about the procedures around it too.
That's right.
Clever. This all feels very real-world security, but applied to data instead of physical locks.
Exactly. And the CCSP wants to make sure you understand that these principles go way beyond just encrypting files, API keys, certificates.
Yeah.
Anything that acts as authentication falls under the same logic.
Right.
It's about protecting secrets no matter what form they take.
Okay, so we've got these super important keys. We're rotating them, revoking them when needed. But what happens when we need to share a key with someone?
Yeah.
Isn't that inherently risky?
It is.
It seems like a catch-22.
Yeah, you've hit on one of the fundamental challenges in cryptography.
Okay.
Key exchange.
Uh-huh.
How do you securely share a secret, especially when you might not have a secure way to communicate in the first place?
Yeah.
This stumped cryptographers for ages.
I can see why. So what did they come up with?
Well, before the internet, there was out-of-band exchange. Alice could literally meet Bob and hand him a key on a USB drive or something.
Right.
But in today's world, that's not always practical.
No.
You need a way to do it electronically over a potentially insecure network.
Right. You can't exactly FedEx an encryption key to someone halfway across the world if you need to access a file right now.
Exactly. And that's where Diffie-Hellman comes in.
Okay.
It's an ingenious method that allows two parties to establish a shared secret key over a public channel. Even if someone's eavesdropping.
Wow.
This is absolutely critical for things like secure web browsing VPNs and pretty much anything involving secure communication online.
Okay. I'm definitely getting aha vibes here. This sounds way more practical, but how does it actually work? I'm guessing it's not as simple as just emailing the key.
No, it's not. Imagine Alice and Bunda want to agree on a secret color.
Okay.
But they can only communicate through messages that anyone could see.
Right.
They each start with a public color, let's say yellow.
Right.
Then mix it with their own secret colors, let's say red for Alice and blue for Bob.
So Alice has orange, Bob has green, and everyone can see those mixes, but their original red and blue are still secret.
Exactly. Now they exchange these mixed colors.
Okay.
Alice takes Bob's green, mixes it with her secret red, and Bob does the same with Alice's orange and his secret blue.
Interesting.
The result, they both end up with brown, a shared secret color that no one who just saw the public messages could figure it out.
Oh, that's pretty slick. So it's like a magic trick with colors, but I'm guessing the real Diffie-Hellman uses a bit more math.
It's the same concept, but with numbers and some clever modular arithmetic.
Right.
The important takeaway is this.
Okay.
Even if someone intercepts the messages being exchanged, they can't derive that shared secret key without knowing the initial secret numbers chosen by Alice and Bob. It's what makes secure online communication possible.
Mind blown. And I bet this is something the CCSP exam really digs into, huh?
Absolutely. Understanding Diffie-Hellman is key, pun intended,
Right.
for grasping how we establish trust and security in the cloud.
Yeah.
It's a cornerstone of modern cryptography, and the exam definitely expects you to know the ins and outs.
Okay, so we've covered generating strong keys, managing them, and even this brilliant way to share them securely. But I can't help but think, if encryption is this strong, doesn't that create problems for law enforcement?
It can.
What if they need access to data for an investigation?
That's a great point, and it leads us into the complex world of key escrow.
Okay.
The attempt to balance strong encryption with legitimate access.
Yeah.
It's a topic that's been debated for decades,
I bet.
and the CCSP exam will definitely touch on it.
All right, let's dive into that debate then. I'm ready to get controversial.
Let's do it. Key escrow. It's basically the idea of having a spare key to encrypted data
Okay.
held by a third party.
Right.
Think of it like a master key held by a government agency, allowing them to unlock data under specific legal circumstances, like with a warrant.
So it's a trade-off, stronger encryption for everyone, but with a potential backdoor for law enforcement. I can see how that gets sticky.
It definitely does. One of the most famous examples is the Clipper chip proposal from the 90s.
Oh, yeah, I remember reading about that.
The U.S. government wanted to put these special chips in devices that would allow them to decrypt communications, but it caused a huge backlash.
Yeah, I remember that. Didn't it get totally shut down?
Pretty much civil liberties groups, security experts, they all saw it as a massive threat to privacy.
Right.
The argument was that any backdoor, even for good reasons, creates a weakness that hackers could exploit.
Oh, for sure.
Plus, who's to say those keys would be safe?
Exactly.
It becomes a single point of failure.
It's like that saying, if there's a lock, someone will try to pick it. But I'm guessing this debate didn't just disappear with the Clipper chip.
Not at all. This tension between security and access is still a hot topic.
Yeah.
Remember the Apple versus FBI case a few years back?
Oh, yeah. That was huge news.
The FBI wanted Apple to unlock a terrorist's iPhone, and Apple refused, saying it would undermine the security of all their devices.
So what's the takeaway here for someone prepping for the CCSP? Is key escrow something we're likely to see in cloud environments?
It's unlikely that you'll see government-mandated key escrow in widespread use anytime soon.
Okay.
Too many legal and ethical concerns, but the concept itself is important.
Right.
You need to understand the trade-offs and the arguments from both sides. That's what the CCSP is testing you on.
Good point. It's not about memorizing the answer. It's about understanding the complexity of the issue. So if we're not going full Clipper chip, how do organizations handle key recovery in the real world?
Like, what if an employee forgets their password or leaves the company?
That's where recovery agents come in.
Okay.
It's a way to designate someone or something to hold a master key that can decrypt data in case of emergency.
Right.
Think of it like a break glass in case of fire solution.
Makes sense, but that master key sounds like a huge responsibility. Wouldn't that be a prime target for hackers?
It absolutely would. The security risks associated with a recovery agent are enormous. That's why if you're implementing this, it needs to be incredibly secure with strict controls and maybe even multiple people involved.
Right.
To prevent any single person from having too much power.
So it's not just a tech solution. It's a people and process problem, too.
Exactly.
You could have the fanciest encryption in the world, but if your key management is sloppy, it's all for nothing.
Exactly. And that's a theme you'll see throughout the CCSP exam. Security is about layers.
Right.
And people are often the weakest link.
Oh, yeah.
But there are tools to help mitigate this risk, which brings us to something that's purpose-built for security, hardware security modules or HSMs.
HSMs. Those sound intense. Are we talking like a safe inside a vault buried underground?
Pretty much think of it like Fort Knox for your encryption keys.
Whoa, okay.
These are specialized devices, physical hardware designed to generate, store, and manage keys with the highest level of security possible.
So not just some software on a server somewhere. Why go through all that trouble?
Because with HSMs, you can ensure that the keys are never exposed to humans.
Right.
They're generated, used, and even destroyed within the HSM, eliminating a lot of the risks that come come with human involvement.
Right.
It's like having a robot guard your most valuable secrets.
That makes sense. If the key never leaves the vault, it's much harder to steal.
Hmm.
But how do HSMs fit into the cloud where everything is virtualized?
Great question. Cloud providers use HSMs extensively
Okay.
to protect their infrastructure and customer data. They're critical for things like key management services and encryption of data at rest. And many providers even offer HSMs as a service, so customers can leverage that same level of security for their own applications.
So as a cloud customer, I could basically rent a piece of Fort Knox to protect my data. That's pretty awesome. But how do I know if an HSM is actually secure?
Good point. There are standards for that.
Right.
FIPS 142 being a major one in the US.
Okay.
It sets different security levels for cryptographic modules, with level 4 being the highest.
Okay, so it's like a grading system. The higher the FIPS level, the tougher it is to crack.
Exactly. The levels cover everything from physical security, like tamper-resistant enclosures, to the software running on the HSM.
Right.
For example, level 3 might require physical seals that show evidence of tampering, while level 4 might demand formal verification of the entire design and code.
Wow, that's serious stuff. So when I'm evaluating cloud providers for this CCSP exam, FIPS S140-2 compliance is something I should definitely be looking for.
Absolutely. It's a good indicator that a provider is taking security seriously and their HSMs meet rigorous standards.
Okay.
Plus, seeing those FIPS levels on the exam will make you feel like you're in the know.
It's all about those little details that make you look like a pro, right? But it's more than just appearances. We've gone from these tiny keys to government conspiracies, and now we're talking about literal Fort Knox level security.
Yeah.
It's amazing how it all connects back to keeping data safe in the cloud.
And that's the beauty of the CCSP. It's not just about memorizing facts, it's about understanding how these concepts all intertwine to create a secure cloud environment.
All right, so we've tackled a lot of ground here. Key management, the key escrow debate, and these HSMs that sound like they're straight out of a spy movie.
Mm-hmm.
What else should our listener keep in mind as they prep for this beast of an exam?
Yeah, it has been a wild ride.
Yeah, for sure. But honestly, it feels like we've only scratched the surface.
Right, we have.
But what the CCSP exam covers.
We've hit on some of the most fundamental concepts. Remember, the CCSP is about testing your understanding of how to apply these security principles.
Right.
In the cloud, it's not just about knowing the definitions.
Yeah.
It's about understanding the why behind it all.
So it's like I could memorize every single FIPS 142 security level, but if I don't get the big picture of why those levels exist and what they're trying to protect against, I'm going to struggle on the exam.
Exactly. The exam is designed to throw curveballs at you.
Oh, yeah.
Scenarios where you have to apply your knowledge,
Right.
not just regurgitate facts.
Right.
So as you're studying, keep asking yourself, why is this concept important?
Okay.
What are the implications in a real-world cloud environment? What are the trade-offs,
That's such good advice.
Yeah.
I know I get caught up in the technical details sometimes and forget to zoom out and see the bigger picture.
Sure.
It's like getting lost in the forest and forgetting which direction you're even trying to go.
And speaking of the bigger picture, I want to leave you with a thought-provoking question.
Why?
It's relevant to several CCSP domains. Remember the Clipper chip story?
Uh-huh.
Think about that debate in the context of today's cloud environment.
Mm-hmm.
How do we balance the need for strong encryption with the need for legitimate access?
Man, that's a tough one. It's like you want to build a fortress to protect your data, but then what happens when you need to get in yourself or let someone else in with permission?
Precisely, and that's the challenge we face in the cloud age. How do we design systems that are both secure and allow for legitimate access when needed?
Right.
It's a question that technologists, policymakers, and security professionals are grappling with constantly.
It makes you realize that security isn't just about technology. It's about people processes and even ethics. There's a lot of gray area, not just black and white answers.
Exactly. And the CCSP exam will definitely challenge you to think critically about those gray areas.
Yeah.
Don't expect simple answers. Embrace the complexity, and you'll be well on your way to mastering cloud security.
Well, I think we've given our listener plenty to chew on today, from those tiny but mighty cryptographic keys to the philosophical dilemmas of key escrow. It's been a fascinating journey through the world of cloud security.
It has. And remember, the learning doesn't stop here.
No.
The cloud is constantly evolving, so keep that curious mind engaged and never stop exploring.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And to our listener out there, best of luck on your CCSP exam. And we're rooting for you.
You got this.
And that's a wrap on another deep dive. We'll catch you next time for more adventures in the world of knowledge. Thanks for listening.